In California, an extreme landslide destroys 10 luxury homes.
Authorities say residents have been safely evacuated. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie-Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines and France eye direct flights and scholarship programs. Philippines and Canada to finalize MOU on maritime cooperation. NATO summit suggests Ukraine's future lies with the alliance. Saudi Arabia provides $2 billion worth of financial support to Pakistan. And BTS's Jin receives early promotion in the army as an elite soldier. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. warmly embraces Japan's commitment to supporting the Philippines in its transition towards renewable energy. Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, or MUFG, Chairman Mike Kanetsugu affirms this dedication during a courtesy visit to the Malacanang Palace. Officials from the Development Bank of the Philippines and Security Bank Corporation are also present. Kanetsugu applauds the country's progress in energy and infrastructure transitions over the past 3 decades. MUFG has supported various infrastructure projects in the Philippines. These include the North-South Commuter Railway and the Metro Manila subway projects. Both are funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. expresses optimism about implementing more renewable energy projects in the country to address power sector challenges.
The 8-point I call once again on our private sector partners to join us as we realize our goal of advancing affordable, reliable, and clean energy for the benefit of our people.
He urges potential investors to contribute to the country's power generation and renewable energy sector during the inauguration of the Lake Mainit hydropower plant. This aligns with the administration's 8-point socio-economic agenda and commitment to address climate change and environmental concerns. President Marcos expresses gratitude to the Japanese J-Power Group. He highlights the potential for further cooperation between the Philippines and Japan in renewable energy. The Lake Mainit hydroelectric project will provide sustainable electricity to about 45,000 households. It will further create socio-economic opportunities, reduce carbon emissions, and improve air quality in the region.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. extends gratitude to French Ambassador Michelle Bocos for her support in fostering deeper bilateral ties between the two nations. Ambassador Bocos informs the president about the forthcoming plans to establish direct flights from Manila to Paris. The French government will also further promote scholarship programs for Filipino students to study in France. President Marcos acknowledges the French ambassador's valuable contributions in strengthening the relationship between the two countries. Bocos was among the first to visit the regions devastated by Typhoon Odette. She will conclude her diplomatic mission this month. The president expresses confidence that the new French ambassador would continue the positive momentum initiated by Bocos.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, launches a microsite that provides official information and the Philippines' stance on the 2016 arbitration award. The website aims to enhance comprehension of the decision while promoting peaceful resolutions of disputes through adherence to international law. The microsite is managed by the DFA Foreign Service Institute. It features an explainer on the legal and geographic aspects of the West Philippine Sea. Manila commemorates the 7th anniversary of the ruling on the 12th of July. The historic day that ratified Philippine sovereign rights and jurisdiction in the exclusive economic zone of the West Philippine Sea.
The Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, or MTRCB, allows the screening of Barbie live-action movie in the country despite criticism of the 9-line scene. MTRCB says it found merit in banning the movie as there is no clear nor outright depiction of the 9-line. MTRCB notes that the film underwent thorough screenings and consultations with the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Office of the Solicitor General. And it noted that the lines are not U-shaped and have 8 dashes instead of 9, while Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia are not visible on the map. MTRCB requested to Warner Brothers to blur the contested lines to avoid further misinterpretations. MTRCB also vows that when there is a clear portrayal in films or television scenes damaging to the prestige of the Republic of the Philippines, it will not hesitate to ban said materials.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is redoubling efforts in maritime patrols in disputed waters of the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine Army shifts its operations from internal security to external. According to the AFP, it deployed additional surface patrol ships to the Kalayaan Island Group. AFP notes that the deployment raised the military presence in the area to about 90%. The Army adds that the heightened presence enables the monitoring of sea line communications to detect and track foreign ships.
Philippines and Canada are finalizing a memorandum of understanding on defense cooperation to boost maritime capabilities. Catherine Ortula tells us more.
Canadian Ambassador David Hartman meets with Philippine Coast Guard officials to hold talks on maritime domain awareness, training, and trade. The envoy says that a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between Canada and the Philippines is under negotiations. The Canadian diplomat notes that the MOU will serve as a manifestation of Ottawa's collaboration with Manila. Ambassador Hartman adds that Canada is aiming for a Coast Guard to Coast Guard cooperation with the Philippines. Meanwhile, Canada released a statement on the 7th anniversary of the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Tribunal ruling. In the statement, Canada reaffirms its objection to unilateral actions that threaten the status quo in the region. Catherine Ortula, reporting from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, NATO stops short of Ukraine invitation. Thai Election Commission recommends suspension to a Prime Minister frontrunner. And a witness in Biden's corruption case faces multiple allegations. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Sa counterpoint,
makakasama natin ang original na hitmaker ng Pilipinas,
OPM icon Mr. Marco Sison.
I want you close to me and hold you endlessly.
Ngayong Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25.
pinaparisahin siya. Naku, maling-mali naman ho yun. Kasi nga daw, nagkamali. Teka muna, sino ba nagkamali?
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Paraguay's incoming President Santiago Peña vows to stand by Taiwan's side. Peña reaffirms Asunction's diplomatic ties with Taipei, asserting Paraguay's alliance with Taiwan for the next 5 years. Peña also lauds Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen for the two nations' strong ties in securing a mutual economic benefit for both countries. Meanwhile, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense says the Chinese military conducted a long-range joint air and naval exercise around waters southeast of the island. The ministry adds that there were 23 warplanes crossed into Taiwan's air defense identification zone.
After warning the United States of consequences for allegedly flying spy planes in its airspace, North Korea test-fired a long-range ballistic missile today. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said Pyongyang fired a ballistic missile off its east coast. Japan's Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada said Pyongyang's missile landed outside their exclusive economic zone. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida immediately ordered his staff to stay alert and prepare for unpredicted events. War analysts say North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missiles are the most powerful arms in its arsenal. Experts believe these weapons are designed to carry a nuclear warhead to the U.S. mainland. Records show North Korea had already fired 19 ballistic missiles this year. 3 weeks ago, Kim Jong-un fired 2 short-range rockets after South Korea and U.S. joint military drills.
North Korea has criticized the United States' decision to supply Ukraine with cluster munitions. Washington announced that it would provide the widely banned munitions to Ukraine for their counteroffensive against invading Russian troops. In a statement, North Korea said that the U.S. made a very dangerous choice to offer such lethal weapons to Ukraine and demanded to halt its plans. Meanwhile, NATO said that the cluster munitions for Ukraine is a national decision of each ally. They also stated the difference where Russia is using cluster munitions to invade another country, while Ukraine is using cluster munitions to defend itself against Russian aggression. According to the Cluster Munition Monitor report published in 2022, North Korea itself currently produces cluster munitions with countries including China, Russia, South Korea, and the United States. It has also not yet signed the Convention on Cluster Munitions, which prohibits the use and stockpiling of the weapons.
NATO leaders have agreed at a summit in Vilnius that Ukraine's future lies with the alliance, but stopped short of handing Kyiv a formal invitation or timetable of accession. At the same time, NATO dropped the requirement for Ukraine to fulfill a so-called Membership Action Plan or MAP, effectively removing a hurdle on Kyiv's way into the alliance. Ukraine's future is in NATO, a declaration agreed by the leaders, adding Kyiv's Euro-Atlantic integration had moved beyond the need for a Membership Action Plan.
Гарантії безпеки для України на шляху в НАТО, не замість, я ще раз це підкреслюю, а саме гарантії безпеки на шляху інтеграції. І сьогодні може ці гарантії безпеки підтвердити Велика Сімка.
While leaders did not specify the conditions Ukraine needs to meet, they said the alliance would help Kyiv to make progress on military interoperability as well as on additional democratic and security sector reforms.
Можемо констатувати, що результати саміту гарні, але якщо б було запрошення, вони були б ідеальні.
Western powers will propose long-term security commitments for Ukraine after NATO refused to comment on a clear timeline for Kyiv's accession into the alliance. Zelensky held symbolic talks with NATO's 31 leaders a day after criticizing them for not moving faster to bring Ukraine into the alliance. In a bid to reassure the Ukrainian leader, the G7 group of nations are expected to issue a declaration on how they will help Kyiv defeat Russia and deter any new aggression in the coming years. Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he intends to appeal for security guarantees for Ukraine while Kyiv awaits its fulfillment in the NATO fold. The G7 announcement will provide a framework under which individual nations will later agree bilateral deals with Kyiv detailing the weapons they will give.
Billboards featuring Russian President Putin holding Islam's holy book have appeared across Lebanon. Footage has been captured by a billboard that displayed President Putin with the words guardian and protector of religions located next to a highway road in Beirut. The photograph used on the billboards was taken during President Putin's visit to a religious gathering place in Russia, where the assistant to the Mufti of Dagestan, Zapir Salimov, presented Putin with a Quran. The billboard showing Putin comes after Russia condemned Sweden for allowing anti-Islam activists to stage a Quran burning demonstration in Stockholm.
Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha announces his retirement from politics after 9 years since his military coup. Prayut's popularity has been on a downward spiral since his government faced intense criticism over its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economy. His military-backed United Thai Nation Party won just 36 of the 500 House seats in the recent election, leading to this announcement. Prayut urges the members of his party to keep protecting the institutions of the nation, religion, and monarchy. He will remain in power until the formation of a new government.
Thailand's Election Commission asks the country's top court to suspend the frontrunner Pita Limjaroenrat over allegations of breaking campaign rules. Pita's Progressive Move Forward Party, or MFP, won the most seats at the recent election, with Pita also being highly popular among voters. But the Election Commission continues to hinder his campaign. Last month, a special committee was set up to inspect his qualifications to run for office. The investigation is centered on his ownership of shares in a media company. Legislators are not allowed to own media shares. Pita denies any wrongdoing and explains that he inherited the shares from his father. Despite the firm opposition, Pita and his party continue to be optimistic about the parliamentary vote for the next prime minister.
Iraq is set to begin trading crude oil for Iranian gas imports to end the recurring issue of payment delays to Tehran. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Sudani had cut gas exports to Iraq by more than 50% as of July 1, after Baghdad failed to secure U.S. approval to disburse their owed deficiencies. But now Tehran had agreed to resume gas exports. The deal was reached during talks with an Iranian delegation that was in Baghdad. Iraq imports electricity and gas from Iran that amount to at least 40% of their power supply, especially during the summer months when power consumption peaks. Iraq has had trouble paying for those imports, as it currently stands that Iran owed around 11 billion euros, which is about $12.1 billion in outstanding debts.
Pakistan has received a $2 billion financial support from Saudi Arabia a day before the International Monetary Fund Board is expected to give final approval for a much-needed $3 billion bailout. Saudi Arabia has deposited the funds with the central bank, boosting foreign exchange reserves when Pakistan was left with barely enough to cover a month of controlled imports. The Middle Eastern country pledged the funds in April, but had held off depositing the money with the State Bank of Pakistan until it was sure that the IMF bailout would be coming. Pakistan secured the $3 billion IMF bailout on the last day of June, though it still needed approval from the IMF board. Under the 9-month arrangement, Pakistan will receive about $1.1 billion up front, and the IMF will stagger disbursements of the rest.
Former United States President Donald Trump calls for a delay on his trial over allegedly hoarding classified documents till after the 2024 election. The trial date was initially set for August 14, 2023, but was later postponed until December 11. According to Trump's lawyer, the amount of evidence that needs to be reviewed warrants a delay. Trump's lawyer argues that it will be a challenge to prepare for the trial before the presidential election in November 2024. Last month, Trump pleaded not guilty to 37 counts during an arraignment in Miami, Florida.
The United States Justice Department declines to certify that former President Donald Trump has absolute immunity in a defamation suit. Under the Westfall Act, federal employees are entitled to absolute immunity from personal tort liability for conduct occurring within the scope of their employment. But the Justice Department argues that Trump was not immune from civil action as a public official when he allegedly made defamatory statements against E. Jean Carroll in 2019. The DOJ, in applying the clarified respondent at superior standards, determined that the evidence of Trump's state of mind, which has come to light only after the last made certification decision, does not establish that he made the statements at issue with a purpose to serve the United States government. The Justice Department also said a jury found that Trump sexually assaulted Carroll long before he became president. Trump's lawyers have yet to issue an official statement. The former U.S. president's defamation trial is slated on January 15 of next year.
A key figure in U.S. President Joe Biden's corruption case is indicted for multiple allegations. Gal Luft allegedly spied for China, engaged in weapon trafficking, and violated Iranian sanctions. Luft claims that the criminal charges against him are a political ploy to prevent him from testifying against Biden. He says he has evidence of Biden's family receiving payments from individuals linked to Chinese military intelligence, and that the Bidens had an FBI informant sharing classified information with a Chinese state-controlled energy company, CEFC. Luft also claims that Hunter Biden receives monthly payments from CEFC in exchange for his family's influence and connections.
Up next, 13 security personnel held hostage in Mexico protest. 4 stowaways rescued off the southeastern coast of Brazil. And scientists declare Canada's Crawford Lake as ground zero for the Anthropocene epoch. Mata ng Agila International will be back after this short break. Don't go away.
Ano kaya ang meron sa ating bansa para kanilang mahalin at balik-balikan ito? You're also called Isaac Pusong Pinoy.
I realized my talent here in the Philippines. Dol, patola, upot, kalabasa.
We will let you taste 3 food items with sabaw.
Bakit walang kanin? If I'm gonna write a story about my life, I think Philippines will be number 1.
Kung ang ibang lahi ay tila napapa I love you Pinas, ang Pinoy kaya? Mag-reality check tayo. Pogi ba ako?
Konti lang.
Hi everyone, Regina Latino here. Abangan nyo naman this Saturday sa Oh No, It's Hero only sa Net 25.
Oh no, it's Biro only sa Net 25.
The United Nations Security Council fails to reach a consensus on extending a key Syria aid route. This throws into doubt a vital mechanism that provides life-saving support to millions of people. Bernadette Raguini has the details.
Russia vetoes a 9-month extension of a key Syria aid route at the UN Security Council. This, a day after the vital mechanism providing life-saving support to millions of people expired.
The result of the voting is as follows: 13 votes in favour, 1 vote against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
Many Council members, including the United States and Britain, have called for a full-year extension. Russia, however, insisted on just 6 months. It rejected the 9-month compromise proposed by Switzerland and Brazil. The UN brokered agreement that allows for the delivery of aid over land from Turkey into rebel-held areas of Syria expired on Monday. Council members, including the United States, Britain, and France, have called for a full-year extension. These countries, however, backed a 9-month compromise proposed by Switzerland and Brazil. The proposal was vetoed by Russia. Russia's 6-month offer only secured China's support. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield called Russia's veto an act of utter cruelty. Bernadette Regini for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Russian daredevil Evgeny Chebotarev shows off his death-defying stunts. As seen in his videos, Evgeny performs his most radical and insane stunts. He is shown to jump over 5 cars and effortlessly jump through a ring with his motorcycle. Evgeny pushes the limits in every stunt he makes. He risks his life 91 times without any injuries and records of staying in the hospital. Viewers commend his courage, but some show concern given the riskiness of his stunts.
At least 2 people died and 10 were injured in a collapsed elevated road section in Bangkok, Thailand. A record footage shows rescue workers cutting down the massive metal structure from a bridge on Tuesday. A rescue worker at the site said that the process of removing the steel construction structures needs to use a large crane to lift the steel beams. Then they tried to remove it by using trailers and moving structures to open the roads as it started to collapse on the opposite side of the road. Authorities are investigating the cause of the collapse that has been under construction since year 2020.
Alabama officials say latest TikTok boat diving stunt trend claims 4 lives. Reports say that the deceased had to be fished out of water after breaking their necks. The trend sees influencers renting a boat and then diving into the water head first on the back of the ride while running at 40 knots. Sources say the trend is even used as part of several boat companies as an advertising strategy.
A passenger plane crash landed at Mogadishu's international airport in Somalia. Somali Civil Aviation Authority reports 3 out of 30 passengers were injured in the crash landing. They expressed in a statement that 30 passengers and 4 crew members survived the crash. Authorities are now investigating to find the cause of the incident. Local airline company Halya Airlines operates the E-20 aircraft flying from Garowe in Somalia's Puntland region to Mogadishu's Aden Ad International Airport. Closed-circuit television footage shows the plane veering off the runway directly after it landed.
3 police officers were killed and 10 other people wounded in an explosives attack in the Mexican state of Jalisco. Governor Enrique Alfaro said that the attack represents a challenge against the Mexican state, where the unprecedented event shows what organized crime groups are capable of. Alfaro added that Jalisco Security Cabinet will investigate the attack, which has not been attributed to a specific criminal organization. Authorities were investigating whether a grenade or homemade mine was used. The western state is the base of operations of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of Mexico's most powerful drug trafficking groups that has a presence in a large part of the country. Mexico has recorded more than 300,000 murders and some 100,000 disappearances since the launch of a controversial military anti-drug offensive in 2006, where most are attributed to criminal organizations.
Hundreds of people continue to blockade a highway in the troubled southern state of Guerrero. It is where 13 members of Mexico's security services remain kidnapped. Authorities say the protest is being driven by criminal groups. Myla Simbulan has more.
The 13 hostages were among the 300 people deployed to contain the demonstrators. They are 5 police officers, 4 National Guardsmen, 3 local civil servants, and 1 federal civil servant. The protesters were marching along the Mexico-Acapulco motorway near Chilpancingo, the capital of the state of Guerrero. Guerrero State Security Secretary Evelio Mendez says, armed with stones and sticks, some 3,000 demonstrators forced the authorities to back down. He says it was at this point that the crowd injured and captured the hostages. They also seized an armored truck. The vehicle was then used to break down one of the doors of the government palace. According to the organizers of the march, the demonstrators were protesting against the government's failure to carry out roadworks for 3 communities. This version is disputed by the authorities. Mexico's security ministers say the demonstration took place after the arrest last week of 2 alleged members of the criminal group Los Ardillos. Los Ardillos is one of the gangs operating in the state of Guerrero. Myla Simbulan for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Acting DGP of Himachal Pradesh, Satwant Atwal Trivedi, says that police try to contact the group of Russian terrorists as the heavy rains continue in Himachal Pradesh, India. The 15 tourists are stranded in Kasol, followed by the rescue team that continues the search operation. The state reports 20 people died over the last 48 hours due to inclement weather for a few days. Rescue teams set up 4 phone lines and started to contact nearby hotels to trace stranded Russian tourists. Tourists were found stranded in parts of the hill state which lost infrastructure.
4 stowaways are rescued off the southeast coast of Brazil after spending 13 days at sea, hidden in the hull of a ship from Nigeria. Federal Police Chief of Espiritu Santo State, Eugenio Ricas, says the rescued stowaways were found by crew members of the ship, which departed from Lagos on June 27. The ship was flying a Liberian flag. Ricas says the stowaways were found hiding in the ship's wheelhouse. They have been taken to the maritime group of the Federal Police for identification and administrative procedures. Ricas says they will remain in the custody of the ship's mercantile agency until their compulsory return to Nigeria. A stowaway is a person who secretly boards a ship, aircraft, a train, or a cargo bus to travel without paying. More often than not, they are police or people in search of a better life for themselves away from their country of origin. Dryad Global says stowaways have always been an ever-present problem for the shipping industry. This especially to those trading off the coast of West Africa, in Central America, Colombia, Venezuela, and in the Dominican Republic.
In California, 10 luxury homes were destroyed on extreme landslide in Palos Verdes Peninsula. Authorities gave residents 20 minutes to evacuate and save their property. The crack in underground water from last winter heavy rains is suspected as the main cause of the landslide. In a report, residents affected look for covered insurance, and it includes the 2 months residing. Los Angeles County Assessor Jeff Prang suggests residents on applying property tax waivers. His office opens to assess the value of casualties and damaged properties.
Vermont is the latest in a growing list of Northeast states in the U.S. to be battered by heavy rains in recent days. Joanne Soriano has the report.
It's been a difficult few days for residents of the northeastern United States. Excessive rainfall hit the region starting Sunday. According to the National Weather Service, more than 8 inches or 20 centimeters fell in some areas. A woman was killed when flash floods hit New York State. Rains pummeled New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Vermont on Sunday into Tuesday. This washed out bridges and left roads impassable.
On Tuesday, President Joe Biden declared a state of emergency for Vermont after more than 100 people had to be rescued from cars and homes. Some were airlifted by helicopter. Vermont Governor Phil Scott described the flooding as historic and catastrophic. In New York, Joanne Soriano from Metanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
As Spain faces a new summer heat wave, about 800 unhoused people have to deal with brutal temperatures. Carlo Valdez reports.
Temperatures are up to about 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Madrid. And in other parts of the country, temperatures are above 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Dolores Perez Araujo, an unhoused woman in Madrid, says summer heat is suffocating. She says living in the streets in this heat can kill people. Maito Bravo of San Isidro Homeless Center in Spain's capital says there are places set up where people can hydrate themselves more during the day. Bravo says there they can access the room and shower area so they can freshen up. Madrid City Council Social Affairs Department says climate change is causing higher temperatures compared to previous years and for a longer period of time. Carlo Valdez from Metanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
From coast to coast, millions of Americans will have to endure dangerously high temperatures this week. Many will see temperatures soar past the 38 degrees Celsius mark. Ana Cui in Las Vegas has more.
A heat wave is building across the southern United States, from the California West Coast to Texas to Florida in the East Coast. More than 50 million Americans will bake under extremely high temperatures this week. The National Weather Service says a mass of hot air is settling over the southwestern states. The agency issues an excessive heat warning for parts of California. Temperatures in the southern and central regions of the state are expected to reach as high as 112 degrees Fahrenheit or 44 degrees Celsius. In Arizona, the area has seen 10 days of temperatures above the 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius. The new warnings come after world daily temperature records were smashed on 3 days last week, according to weather data. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Ana Cui for Metanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Science has designated a small body of water near Toronto, Canada, as ground zero for the Anthropocene. Anthropocene is the proposed geological epoch defined by humanity's massive and destabilizing impact on the planet. JC Humol has more details.
On Tuesday, members of the Anthropocene Working Group concluded that layered sediment at the bottom of Lake Crawford is the single best repository of evidence that a new and challenging chapter in Earth's history has begun. The layered sediment is laced with microplastics, fly ash spread by burning oil and coal, and the detritus of nuclear bomb explosion.
So what we're looking at here is a series of graphs. The graph on the left is the graph of our plutonium record in the lake. Levels dropped down to, and then in the 1950s, the United States started doing more testing, atomic bomb testing and atmospheric testing, and the levels of plutonium in our core started to increase. So we're starting to map the amount of plutonium that's in the atmosphere that got down into the sediment, into the core, into our small lake.
After years of deliberation, the Canadian lake was selected from among 12 candidate sites around the world as the Anthropocene so-called Golden Spike. Candidate sites include another lake, coral reef, ice cores, and an ocean bay in Japan. Simon Turner, working group chair and a professor at University of College London, says the sediment found at the bottom of the Crawford Lake provides an exquisite record of recent environmental change over the last millennia. He says it is the ability to precisely record and store the information as a geological archive that can be matched to historical global environmental change. Those changes are currently on dramatic display. Like last week was the hottest globally on record. Out-of-control forest fires have been ravaging Canada for months. The US and China are coping with unprecedented heat, flooding, and drought at the same time. Humanity has burned so much fossil fuel that concentration of the planet warming carbon dioxide have increased by half. Sea surface temperature have hit new high in recent weeks. Antarctic sea ice last month was 17% below the previous record low for June.
Scale. If geologists, who after all are the people who found the plutonium in the rocks and the petroleum in the rocks, if they accept that there is a fundamental change that's due to humans, then maybe action will be taken.
JC Yumul for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Ukrainian tennis star Elina Svitolina stuns world number 1 Iga Swiatek in Wimbledon. BTS member Jin gets promoted in the South Korean military. And Warner Brothers release Wonka trailer. Catch more news in tech, sports, and entertainment when we return.
Kauna-unahang senior rom-com film sa bansa, may 3-day advance screening na. Mark your calendar, July 24, 25, at 26.
Sino kagrupo mo dito? Ano to, networking?
Monday, first screening.
Ngayong July 24, 25, at 26, magkita-kita tayo sa EVM Convention Center. To buy your tickets, call 8784-7450, local 1368. You can also contact us at 0955-205-0988.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. NASA is set to unveil a new image of the James Webb Telescope's first anniversary. Last December 2021, Webb Observatory was launched into orbit from French Guiana. Webb's destination is on a region called the Second Lagrange Point, 1.5 million kilometers directly behind the Earth as viewed from the Sun. On July 11, 2022, a first full-color picture was revealed by United States President Joe Biden, presenting the pristine view of the universe 13 billion years back from now. Webb boasts of a primary mirror measuring greater than 21 feet, consisting of 18 hexagonal gold-coated segments, along with a 5-layer sun shield as large as a tennis court. Meanwhile, early this month, Europe's Euclid Space Telescope was launched with a mission to unveil dark energy and dark matter.
In the 2023 Wimbledon, Novak Djokovic advances to the semifinals while Elena Svitolina stuns Iga Swiatek. Defending champion Novak Djokovic has defeated Russian Andrei Rublev and advances to the semifinals. After a 4-set win of 4-6, 6-1, 6-4, and 6-3, Djokovic is on his way for his 8th title at the All England Club. The Serbian has now reached as many semifinals at the Slams as the retired Roger Federer at 12. Playing in his 400th Grand Slam match, Djokovic will face Italian Jannik Sinner at the semifinals. For the women's singles, Ukrainian Elena Svitolina will advance to the semifinal round as she has stunned world number 1 Iga Swiatek. She defeated Swiatek in 3 sets, 7-5, 6-7, and 6-2. For the Ukrainian Svitolina, the war has made her stronger in overcoming her opponent. Svitolina, already a semi-finalist in 2019, will take on Marketa Vondrousova of the Czech Republic in the semi-finals. BTS Army rejoice! BTS member Jin gets promoted to the rank of corporal in the military. Jin, whose real name is Kim Suk-jin, says he got promoted after receiving the title of elite soldier. South Korean Ministry of National Defense says an elite warrior is a title of honor given to a soldier who is armed with strong physical strength and mental spirit. These include excellence in shooting, administering first aid vigilance, a 3-kilometer race, chemical, biological, and radiological training, and individual combat. With this title, Jin is allowed to have several perks, like wearing a special emblem on uniforms and being allowed to take extra leaves of 4 to 5 days. Jin entered the mandatory military service of South Korea on December 13, 2022. His discharge date is on June 12, 2024.
Warner Brothers has released the first trailer of Wonka, a prequel to Roald Dahl's beloved Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Beekeepers in Jordan are as busy as bees. Demand for honey has soared. Emi Capilita Roja has the details.
Part of the reason for the honey boost is the pandemic. Jordan's 4,000 beekeepers have ramped up production of honey. The sweet, sticky, golden substance has long been praised for its anti-inflammatory and other health benefits. Even though there is no consensus that it helps fight COVID, many of those infected have been using it to soothe symptoms such as sore throats. Jordan produces 19 different types of honey, depending on which plants the bees pollinate. Jordanian honey sells for between $21 and $42 a kilogram. That's 1,100 to 2,200 pesos per kilo. Emi Capilita Roja for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Japan shows off its staple food, seaweed, for having potential as an eco-friendly super crop. Research says seaweed can be used in absorbing carbon to reduce methane emissions from cattle. According to the Sachi Umihiro Seaweed Project, seaweeds help to preserve the ecosystem.
日本人と昆布っていう歴史がずっと食でずっとあるので、食品にしたりですね。あとちょっと変わったところでも銭湯さんに昆布風呂、昆布湯として提供させていただいたり。あとは変わったところで水族館のウミガメですね、はい、ウミガメの餌として提供したり、あとは農家さんの今土地が痩せているミネラルが足りないっていうことも聞くので肥料にするプロジェクトだったり、いろんなことの昆布の利活用を、やってます。
Studies say seaweed can promote growth on plants and can be also used as livestock feeds or sea turtles and cows. Research shows that seaweed can also be used as organic fertilizer, which helps other businesses, including green tea plantations.
seaweed's a fantastically quick-growing product, which means it absorbs lots of carbon. And there's some exciting elements in terms of feeding it to cattle has shown really fantastic results in terms of reducing methane emissions. And then there's a more broad perspective on the environmental side in terms of it's an ecosystem engineer, so it can help provide life and provide an ecosystem for the marine environment. And it can do other things like deacidify the water and aspects like that, which is very exciting.
We are halfway through the work week, and to help you get through what remains, here's a quote from Scottish novelist and poet Robert Louis Stevenson. Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant.
This kind of goes hand in hand with our quote yesterday. It's all about our patience and really making sure that we track that progress.
That is right. And just because you did something, it doesn't guarantee results right away.
Yes.
And most important is that you do good. If you don't get that back right away or not at all, at least you did good, right?
Yes, and it's tough to have that mindset, but I hope that we help you a little bit today.
That's right.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. Please stay tuned for tonight's episode of Counterpoint with attorney Salvador Panelo and OPM icon Mr. Marcos Sison. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.